Labour's Shadow Foreign Affairs spokesperson is here with me now. Hello.
Hiya.
Thanks for coming in. So that was Keir Starmer this morning. I don't want to put words in his or your mouth, but I interpreted that as saying we are not staying in the single market. That's not Labour's position, but we want to maintain a lot of the arrangements that we have with the single market. Is that right?
We've always said that we have to accept the results of the referendum. We have some tests that need to be abided by in order to be able to get a good deal. And so we need to be able to get the full advantage of access to the single market and the customs union.
So in order to achieve that, what Keir Starmer seemed to be saying was that we would stay closely aligned to the rules and regulations of the EU, possibly even be paying for access to the single market. And whilst free movement of people would end, he said there should be easy movement of people from the EU to the UK and vice versa. Is that really respecting the result of the referendum?
We have to leave the European Union, but there is no reason why we don't need to go a long way. But it would not be respecting the referendum and the sentiment that was expressed during the referendum if we didn't move, after leaving the European Union, to a system where we had fair rules and managed migration, so that people could easily travel across Europe, and those that we need to have in our economy can move into our economy, and we can. And it will help us, and it will help us with our development.
And taking back control, of course, as you know, was a key phrase in all of this. If we're staying very closely aligned to the rules and regulations of the EU, whilst we have no say in the formulation of those rules, how is that taking back control?
We're going to leave, and it does seem to us that what people wanted was they wanted to leave. They wanted to have some form of control over migration, and fair rules and managed migration is where we want to get to. But they didn't vote in order to be able to lose their jobs or for their neighbours to lose their jobs. We would always have prioritised the economy and trade when it came to negotiations, and people should be in no doubt. Our biggest trading partner is the European Union. It would be economically ridiculous for us to march off into the middle of the Atlantic and say we turn our backs on the European Union. So in order to be able to deal with to go into deals with them, we would need to have the same rules when it came to our exporting of carrots or anything else. Because if you want to export vacuum cleaners to Europe, they have to have the same safety standards as the rest of Europe.
And you think that people who voted leave will be happy with the idea that we now mirror the rules and regulations of the EU when we have no say in the creation of those rules anymore, when we become rule takers, not rule makers?
We need to negotiate what our ongoing relationship is going to be. What we have said is that we need to have an interim period in which we negotiate properly and we negotiate a long-standing relationship with the European Union. But when it comes to exporting goods, then clearly we have to have the same standards, and we definitely don't want to undercut European standards. Nobody wants environmental controls, employment controls, all of these different things to be less in Britain than in the rest of Europe. Well, some Tories do, but we don't, and we are quite clear about that.
And that would constrain your ability to sign free trade deals with other third countries. Just what I was talking to James Brokenshire about there. The more closely aligned you stay with the EU, the less movement you've got in order to sign a whole new deal with the United States, for instance.
Well, what we need to be able to do is we have to have a custom-built arrangement between Britain and the rest of Europe. So we would need to be in a form of customs union. We need to be closely aligned to the single market. And that may give us some room to be able to strike other deals, but that is something that we need to be involved in negotiations with the EU.
But that's clearly of secondary importance to you, the ability to strike new free trade deals with third countries.
We have always been pragmatic and realistic. Most of our trade is with the European Union. We're just stating a fact, and so we should not be kiboshing that.
Are you happy with the agreement that Theresa May struck this week? Is there anything in it you disagree with?
I don't understand what it is. I mean, I really don't understand it. I've done my best. I've looked at it. I don't understand. I mean, I think that probably what she's doing is she's rubbed out some of her red lines, and that's good, because, to be honest, you shouldn't go into negotiations with all these hard red lines in the way that she has. I don't understand how, on the one hand, she's saying that she's going to align, and on the other hand, we're going to be out of the single market and the customs union. It doesn't really make any sense to me. But if they
I thought that was the position that you just said that Labour were in, which is we're leaving the single market and the customs union, but you do want to stay closely aligned to Europe and its rules and regulations.
No, they have said, they have swept off the table the customs union, or any form of customs union, as far as I can understand it. That seems to be what she was saying. She swept off the table any suggestion that the European Court of Justice would have anything to do with any rules. All of these things were swept off the table. She seems to be busily putting them back on the table again. That's probably a good thing. What a waste of time. Because wouldn't it have been good to have begun on a pragmatic and realistic basis, and we would have perhaps got a bit further than we have now? We are running out of time.
So what's Labour's answer to the question of the border between Northern Ireland and the Republic? How do you avoid having a hard border once we've left the EU?
I think that the further we go from the European Union, the more difficult it is to have a soft border. And I think that's the truth. And I think that we have throughout said that a form of customs union is a viable option. And nobody has come up with any other suggestion.
And so this idea, I mean, it says in the agreement that was struck with the EU in the absence of any other agreement, but this idea that we would maintain close or full alignment with EU rules and regulations, you're satisfied that that works well for the UK and it solves the Irish border question?
I think, as Keir has said this morning, you know, of course there has to be a form of alignment. Of course the European Court of Justice has to have an ongoing relationship with British justice and with the way in which we put forward rules when we are trading with the rest of the European Union. Of course. And, you know, why have we been denying this all this time? That has always been self-evident. It continues to be self-evident.
So the former Attorney General, Dominic Grieve, is proposing to put forward an amendment to the EU withdrawal bill that would give MPs a say, a meaningful vote on this, whilst there is still time for more negotiation, rather than at the end of the negotiations. Will Labour support that?
We've always said this. Throughout, we have said, right from the outset, we have said, why should it be that parliaments across the whole of the rest of Europe will have a vote on this? The European Parliament will have a vote on it. The people of Walloon will have a vote on it. Why would the British Parliament not have a vote on it as well? And that has to be a meaningful vote. We're not just going to have a take it or leave it vote. Of course, they have to factor in what the British Parliament thinks. And many people in the British Parliament will not accept a no deal, for example. If they really think they're going to come to the British Parliament with no deal as an option, they have got another thing coming.
And so there's another amendment that the Lib Dems are wanting to put forward to keep open the option of remaining in the single market. And Vince Cable has said that it's specifically designed to flush out the Labour Party and ask you straight out, will you support this amendment or not, with the option of staying in the single market? How would the Labour Party vote on that?
We're leaving the European Union. We need to have a custom-made deal with the European Union. We need to be able to respect the views of the British people as expressed during that referendum, and one of the debates was definitely about ensuring that we have more control over migration. We have been told that the four freedoms mean that we cannot stay in a single market as it currently is. So we need to have a different deal. And those are the things we should have been focusing on right from the outset.
Emily Thornberry, thank you very much.